Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Mike Pelaia.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Steel Nation Radio. I'm Mike Pelaia of SteelNationAssociation.com, where we cover the Steelers 24/7 while bringing you, the Steeler fans, together in an effort to raise money for Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. Please visit the site, read the articles, listen to the podcasts, join the club, and help us raise money for the kids all at the same time. As you know, you can also find my work on SteelCityUnderground.com, where we have many great columnists covering the Steelers in many different ways with several opinions, predictions, podcasts, and so much more. So please go to SteelCityUnderground.com and read all of our articles and listen to all of our podcasts and just check out the site in general. And lastly, you know you can find my work in the paper at New Pittsburgh Courier or online. So please check me out there as well. So good news, we sit here after the Steelers' first victory. They moved to 1-3 after just an utter domination of the Bengals. Specifically impressed by the defense. The way they got after Andy Dalton was very impressive with the 8 sacks, I believe it was, at the final. It was good to see, TJ Watt back there. That wasn't too unexpected, but I was surprised by and happily surprised by Bud Dupree's play, creating a fumble, getting into the backfield, just being disruptive, and it was a very good thing to see, and it's something that will need to continue as the season goes along, especially this coming week against Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens as they visit Heinz Field. Very necessary, and we'll get to that. But definitely, pleased by the defense. Also, the creation of more turnovers. They have definitely done a lot better job of that this year. Very impressed with that. They were actually able to turn that into some points against the Bengals this past week, and just overall a good showing by the defense. Now, where I'm going to be a little bit of a stick in the mud is it was against the Bengals, and the Bengals just aren't a quality football team, if we're being honest, and that's something that I would expect the Steelers to do. It's not something that I guess is overly impressive, but it's happy to be seen. We'll put it that way. Offensively, definitely happy with the output. 27 points is great. Mason Rudolph, 24 of 28. Fantastic in that regard. The couple of touchdown passes, it was good to see the running backs getting involved. It was good to see the movement of the football. Obviously, Fichtner was creative in his play calls this week and designed the schematics that he felt would help move the ball, win the game, and get Mason Rudolph maybe some confidence. So I can stomach that for a game. But as I wrote earlier this week, that is not going to be successful long-term this season. It just won't. The Wildcat is old news, and while the Bengals may not have been necessarily ready for that on Monday night, you better believe that the Ravens will be ready and able to defend that as well as the other teams moving forward. They also will be able to easily stop the little touch passes. That's done now. Now, it worked for a game. It will not work beyond the big Bengal game. It just won't. So I do hope that he starts to loosen up the offense a little bit. I hope that he allows Rudolph to go downfield. It just shows a lot of mistrust in what they think Rudolph can do. I think he's better than what they are showing that they think. I think he can go downfield. I think you've got weapons like Juju Smith-Schuster that can be utilized a lot better. I think James Washington can be a very strong number 2, especially with the connection that he and Rudolph have. So I would like to see that more. It was great to see Nick Vannett in his first game do well. I think when Vance McDonald comes back, he can be a very good option as well. And I would like to see the passing game open up more. Averaging 3.1 yards in the air is not going to spell success, especially because you have to really rely on the defense when you do that. Now, that didn't happen against the Bengals, but overall, when you play the better teams, that's what's going to have to happen. And I just don't think that defense can carry this team, if you're only going to be able to score maybe 17 to 20 points. Yes, they put up 27 against the Bengals, but against the better teams, that type of play is not going to put up 27 points. It's just not. So I need more out of the offensive line. I need more out of the running game in a traditional form, and I need Fichtner to let Rudolph throw the ball 20, 30, 40 yards downfield and utilize the weapons that this offense has. And that's what they have to do against Baltimore if we want to transition over to that. One, defensively, they need to keep creating the turnovers, going after Lamar Jackson, getting him to fumble. If he scrambles, he's dangerous. If you keep him in the pocket right now this year, he's dangerous. He's averaging 337 yards per game passing, which is impressive. He's also averaging close to 60 yards on the ground. So he's a very dangerous quarterback, more so than I thought after the first week when I kind of dogged him on Twitter saying I didn't respect him because he was playing the Dolphins. He's the biggest threat on that offense. They do have Mark Ingram. He's averaging 6 yards per carry, but he doesn't scare me nearly as much as Lamar Jackson does right now. So they need to get after the football. They need to get after it when it's in Jackson's hands, and they need to force him into mistakes. If they can do that even half as well as they did against Andy Dalton and the Bengals, they will have a chance. But if they don't, they won't. The secondary, if we can get those coverage sacks, which rarely happen, but did happen against the Bengals, they really need to, one, stop Marquise Brown, and two, I think maybe more dangerous is Mark Andrews out of the tight end spot. They need to make sure that they are covering those guys like blankets. I'm looking for Devin Bush to continue to grow and have another big game and be very, very disruptive. But I think that this defense, if they can get after Jackson and they can cover Brown, cover Andrews, force the ball to guys like Willie Snead or Nick Boyle, we've got a better chance of seeing a victory. It's going to start with that front seven, as usual. They need to get there, because if they don't, the secondary is not going to be able to last. And Jackson, apparently, at this point, looks like he can deliver the ball downfield. And that is something that I think should scare all Steeler fans, because this game is in Pittsburgh, and if the Steelers don't win this one and they have to go to Baltimore later in the year, that could be a problem. This is a big game, too, because the Ravens are sitting at 2-2, with the Steelers sitting at 1-3. Browns also 2-2 with a Monday Nighter coming up. And I think what's important here is that the Steelers can win this game and they jump the Ravens and potentially get with the Browns at the same time. So there's a lot already riding on this in Week 5, but they are right back in the thick of it if they win. If they don't and they fall to 1-4, they've got trouble, with the Ravens sitting at 3-2 at that point. 2 games back mathematically, plus the loss to the Ravens, it makes it a very, very tough uphill climb. So in Week 5, this is a must-win game. The Ravens don't really scare me defensively. I know that they have some talent. They're not getting to the quarterback that frequently. They have 8 total sacks on the year, I believe. So they're not really getting there. The offensive line needs to keep that way. I'd like to see Villanueva play a little bit better, quite frankly. I think, he's starting to get back into his groove a little bit. They only have 3 interceptions. Rudolph has been very good and diligent with the football, and he's been protective. He needs to continue to do that. This is a game that is going to come down to Chris Boswell. Potentially, these games are always very close. They're always hard-hitting. I don't care who's playing, who's wearing the uniforms. It's always close. Less than 7 points. I don't see any difference in that coming up this weekend. Special teams are always a factor and will be again. That's why I say this falls on Boswell, who's been fantastic this year, by the way. Hopefully I didn't just jinx him, knock on wood. But it's going to come down to the end, I think, and it's going to be a close one. Unfortunately, I sit here thinking that the Steelers aren't good enough to win against the Ravens. I don't think the Ravens are great, but I also don't think the Steelers are what they looked like against the Bengals this past week. The Bengals suck, if we're going to be honest. I don't think that kind of offensive football is going to be successful against a team like the Ravens, who have a really good coach in John Harbaugh. I still don't believe that Butler and Fichtner and Tomlin, for that matter, can make adjustments in game. I don't think they're good game planners either, and I think that Harbaugh can and is and will. And so for that reason, I do think the Ravens win this game 23-20. And unfortunately, the Steelers will need to just evaluate the young talent moving forward. I do hope I'm wrong. I can admit that there's a possibility that the Steelers can win this. Maybe they ride the momentum, but a short week going against the Ravens after a loss, second straight loss, with an offense that to me just isn't running schematics that are going to be effective long-term, spells a loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week and a season of let's evaluate our talent. And that's okay. That's okay. But that's probably what's going to happen this week. I'll talk to you next week, hopefully after another Steelers victory. But if not, we'll still have a lot to talk about. And that's okay.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.